Welcome to the show. My guest today is John Rivoli. You've seen his artwork from films like The Karate Kid, Wonder Woman, and all of the Harry Potter movies, just to name a few. Today, we'll talk about his creative path to becoming the official Rocky artist. John, welcome to the show. You and I have been traveling in the same circle, the Rocky Circle, for a little while now, so I'm thrilled to have you here.
We sure have. I'm surprised we haven't bumped into each other sooner, because I see you out and about a lot. So
yes. Well, I love your work. I follow you on Instagram. We're both friends with Mike Kunda, who's also all things Rocky.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm just glad to have you here, and we can talk about Rocky, but we also want to talk about your artwork.
Sure.
And so let's go back. So you're the official Rocky artist.
Yes.
And I'd like to know how one becomes the official Rocky artist, and just tell me your love of Rocky. Let's start there. Did you love the movie as a kid like I did, or did you come to an adulthood? What is your story behind Rocky?
Yeah, no, I saw it in the theaters in '76. My brother took me to go see it. He had already seen it. He's like, "Oh my God, you got to see this movie." My brother's much older than me. He took me to it, and I remember I was so affected by it, and I wound up seeing it in the theater 13 times.
Oh, wow. That's me in Good Will Hunting.
No, that's really a thing back in those days, because you couldn't pull it up on demand or YouTube. You had to go to the movies to see something again if you wanted to. So I saw it 13 times because I was just so floored by that character, by Rocky. And clearly it instilled something in me early on. I became a person who just, would not stop and just wouldn't give up and just kept going and going. And I'm very, very persistent with stuff. And I attribute that to seeing Rocky at such a young age. I was 8 when I saw it.
I was 5. If I'd had the option to go to see it 13 times, I would have. And I remember my dad took my brother and me. My mom was at work or something that day, and my brother recently reminded me of that memory. I just remember going and not wanting to leave the theater. And it was, I'm only 5 years old, and I want to watch the credits roll. I want this theater to go black. I don't even know what that means at that age, but it wouldn't happen again for me until Good Will Hunting. And I remember my dad's kind of like a hurry up, let's go, it's over, let's go. And I couldn't leave. And so I sat there a little bit longer. And it wasn't until the second movie came out that I was a little bit older and I was paying a little more attention to the news. So, Sylvester Stallone being on late night television, or my dad leaving the newspaper out and me seeing, kind of the fanfare that was going on about the second film that maybe wasn't happening about the first one.
Right.
That's when I started understanding the storytelling, like the story behind how Sylvester Stallone got this done, and the persistence and what he was willing to endure to tell a story.
Sure. It's a great mythology, that story of how he made that movie. That's a once in a lifer right there.
Once in a lifer. Once in a lifer that's lasted so many years,
Yeah. It's amazing how this thing has touched so many people around the world. I always say it's the biggest pop culture icon of all time, and it has to be.
No doubt.
From my info that I'm able to get at MGM, he has 100% name recognition, which is really, really rare.
Right.
It's Rocky is. I remember when I went to Philly back in maybe like 2011 or something. I was working on an M. Night movie, After Earth, with Will Smith. And he was filming in Pennsylvania and all. And I had to go to Philly. I had to take the train into Philadelphia, and I got a cab to take me to Nowhere Land, Pennsylvania, where his studio is. And I remember thinking, and there's no Uber yet. There's no Ubers at this time. And I'm thinking, well, how am I going to get back to the city? And the guy's like, "I'm going to wait for you, cab driver." And he just sat in the parking lot for like 5 hours.
Wow.
Just waiting for me. So I was so, I felt so indebted to this guy, and we took a ride, and I got him lunch and all that stuff. And I asked him to take me to the steps, and he was from Africa. He was from deep into Africa. And he's like, "Sylvester Stallone is so important in my country because Rocky was the first movie that was ever shown there.
Wow. I did not know that.
White sheets that they hung between trees.
Wow.
And they projected it up on these white sheets. And that was this guy's story. So everybody has a story and they're all so profound. That's what I found.
You know, I just visited I just visited Philadelphia for the first time last year. And we were filming for my project. And I had intentionally not intended to go up the steps until Friday's film day, which may have been a mistake because we went to see the steps Wednesday. And I was so overcome just walking toward them before I even saw them. I could not contain my emotion. I get like choked up just thinking about it now. And I called my son on Messenger and showed him the steps, you know, the video. And, you know, it was just an experience that I know people come from all over the world to do. And there are so many people who can't. And I just felt like, you know, that's what I was sharing with my audience at the time. There are some people who can never do this, who will never be here. And I just felt like walking the steps for them too, you know, for the people who have their own story, but will never live it out on those steps.
Right. For sure.
It's iconic.
If everybody could, they would pilgrimage to those steps because that's really what it is. It's a pilgrimage for people as they go there.
Well, we could talk about this the entire show, but let's take a break. And we come back. Let's talk about your story as it's connected to becoming the official artist for Rocky. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back talking with John Rivoli, and we spent the first segment. We could talk an entire show about Rocky, the character, and probably even Sylvester Stallone, no doubt. But let's talk about you, John, and your artwork and your talents. And at what age did you start to realize you were artistic? And then how do you become the official Rocky artist?
Well, I knew right away. I've been doing this since I can remember my earliest memories. I was always drawing and was able to draw really well from a very young age, you know, and I would practice by watching TV shows and then redrawing them as like comic book panels so that I could watch it again later. So I remember doing that, like King Kong versus Godzilla and Abbott and Costello and all that stuff. And I would just
Did you keep that? Do you have some of that still?
I do have the King Kong versus Godzilla one.
Nice.
I recently found. So I was always drawing, and I grew up on the Jersey Shore, a real beach town, and it was only active for like 3 months of the year. So the rest of the year, and we were one family that lived there year round. Most people, it was their summer home. But
I see.
There. So I was alone.
Yeah, it's quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. And so all I did was draw. I just kept drawing and drawing. So I was honing my skills all this time. So
imagine if you'd lived somewhere busier where you had stuff to do all year. You know, maybe you wouldn't have reached your potential.
Right. Who knows how important the environment is to your development, right?
Mm-hmm. So then you're an artist, and at what point does Sylvester Stallone come into your life, and at what point do you become the official artist of all things Rocky?
Well, I started a design agency and started working for all the film studios. So I had been doing that for almost 20 years already. So I was working with Sony and Universal and Warner Brothers and MGM, all those studios already. And I was working on all their films and television programs, doing artwork for it, various types, whether it be movie posters or actual art for the cartoons or marketing art, whatever.
Right.
And I remember I kept saying to MGM, if you ever do anything with Rocky, you got to call me, you know? Yeah. And they kind of just blew me off a little bit. And I just kept doing that. Every time I would talk to them, I would drop that Rocky thing. And this was years.
And they hadn't even thought to do that yet.
Yeah, no. So this was years and years of me doing this. And then finally, I remember I got this call that they were going to do a collection of art for the 35th anniversary of Rocky.
So a long time ago.
Yeah.
Even from now. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. This was back in 11 or 12 again. It was very early on that I had to do the artwork. So that was my first foot into the Rocky door with the powers that be. So I went to work and did all of this artwork, and I didn't know that they were planning a little surprise for me, that when I was done creating all the art, they were going to arrange for me to present it to Sly. Yeah.
Are you glad you didn't know that, maybe?
Yeah, I guess so, because the nerves were out of control.
Right.
Yeah, so, and I remember I got this call on a Tuesday at like 2 p.m. I'm in New York, right? They're like, you need to be here tomorrow morning because Sly has time tomorrow. We're taking you to go see. I'm like, so I had to scramble, get myself together, get up at 2 a.m. the next day and just get out of here and go
get
see
to
him.
LA, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go to LA, MGM picks me up at the airport and I change in the car and they whisk me over to Sly's office, which is where I met him for the first time. But it was so great because I got to meet him on a professional level.
Right.
I didn't have to be a fanboy or any of that stuff. MGM introduced me. This is our Rocky aficionado from New York. We hired him to do this and all that stuff. So, and of course, Sly being an amazing artist, we connected on that art level immediately. So he's looking at my stuff and he's asking, how did you do this? How did you get that texture? All this stuff. We're going back and forth. And I'm thinking, Rocky's asking me how I did something. Insane. This is insane, you know? So that all went well. And then fast forward, the 40th anniversary is coming. So MGM comes back to me and I do all the artwork again and go through the same process. And this time is when Sly commissioned me to do that first piece. He wanted a big giant painting for Beverly Hills where he hung out all the time. It turned out to be the 1 in a million shot piece.
Yes.
So we spoke. He told me it was his idea. This is what I want. I want this and that and Philadelphia and all this stuff. And he walked me through this whole thing. And I remember my only input was, listen, you got to let me put him in the leather because that's Rocky. Rocky's the guy in the leather.
Not be in a ring.
Right. Or the sweats at the top of the steps is too the shade. Like we are all Rocky in the hat and the leather. The person who wants that shot, right? That's what we connect with. That's us, right? Looking for the one shot. So he agreed. And then he was like, so do you want to do it? And I'm like, there's nobody better.
Yes.
And I thought, I was so horrified that I said that. I'm like, did I really just blurt those words out? You know, you don't even know. And I thought, well, now how am I going to do this? How am I going to pull this off? And I flew back to New York and I did it, flew back. The paparazzi happened to be there when I was meeting him. That's why it was filmed for like TMZ and stuff. They just happened to be there that day. And I presented it and you've probably seen that video and he loved it. And he took it and he hung it in Cafe Roma, his favorite haunt in Beverly Hills in those days. And he was like, I need 2 more, 1 for each side. So that's kind of how it started. And people started pilgrimaging to the restaurant to take pictures with that art because he was
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
It was really interesting. And then I thought, and they were contacting me saying, can I buy this? Are there print and all this stuff? And I thought, okay, here it is. There's something here.
Yeah, so if you had tried to create that scenario, if you had thought, okay, I'm going to make money off this, people are going to want these, or I'm going to sell prints. I mean, it's completely different when it authentically happens from you just doing the work you love and people finding that work authentically.
Absolutely. There's something about the organic process of something just growing from nothing. Yes. That's the thing that has that longevity and becomes an evergreen. You know,
evergreen, exactly.
Last, right? So that's how it started. That's how Icons in Art started. I thought maybe with me working with Sly, him giving me ideas, and I paint. I used to say to him, "Your words, my hands." Right? Tell me what to do. So I went to MGM and I presented it, and they're like, "Absolutely, you can absolutely be," because they already knew me. I had just finished RoboCop for them, and I did all the Pink Panther, everything. I was doing all their work anyway. So it was easy for me to kind of get this position of being the first and only Rocky artist.
It's a natural progression.
Yeah. And that's
I want to take a break. When we come back, we picked a couple of your favorites, a couple of my favorites that we'll talk about here and share with the audience and get more of just showing your work. We'll be back in just a moment. We are back with John Rivoli. We are talking all things Rocky and how you became the official Rocky artist. Amazing story. Let's show some of your work. You and I decided ahead of time what we wanted to talk about here. So let's start with your first choice, which is Resurrection. Tell us about that.
Yeah, very important piece. This is another one that was Sly's idea. So I remember I woke up one day, it was a couple days before Christmas, and he had emailed me this Polaroid of the opening scene of Rocky. And he was talking to me about how important it is, everything in there, that why it was such a powerful image and such a powerful moment in the film, and I should paint it. So I love that, and I went to work on it. And I really dove very deep into this piece because the symbology of it is so important. I mean, the movie opens on an image of Jesus, right? And flies down to resurrect. I mean, he's telling us what's happening. So I need to capture that this is Jesus literally choosing Rocky, selecting him as the chosen one. Those are Sly's words, the chosen one, and here we meet Rocky at a point in his life where he is broken. He is broken. He is beaten down. He is a broken man. Nothing is going right for him, but he's being selected. And we see that word resurrection, and we know this is going to be the story of the rebirth of this man, of this character. So I worked really hard to capture all that and really emphasize like the light coming from I purposely put this light shining down, creating almost a halo around Rocky, lifting him out of what he is, ensconced in his life. And, I worked really hard using all the techniques I learned in Italy, which is where I went to school to learn how to paint, and using old master techniques like chiaroscuro, which is the use of extreme lights and darks. And that's how I pulled that piece off.
How long did it take you?
A lifetime.
Right?
A lifetime.
So, yeah. Is it something that you sit down and you like really work out, and you're on a roll and you stay in it, and it's something that's done more quickly the more enthralled you are? Or is it more like you do some of it and you have to take a step back and take a moment, come back to it?
All the time is spent on the planning phase in my head. I sit there with my eyes closed in a dark room, and I just think about this painting and what it might look like. I know some people sketch it first. I'm sketching in my head. What does it look like? And that takes a lot of time for me. That's all my time is spent. But once I have that vision, and then you
execute. Yeah. Okay.
It's really fast for me. It goes fast, at least the first shot of it. And then I'll step away, get away from it, and come back and take a look. I'll see what's not working and start correcting. So, after I have the vision and start painting, it's like a week or a week. That's it. I go fast.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. The next one we want to talk about is Alone in the Ring.
That's my favorite one.
It is your favorite?
And
it is his favorite. Okay. Too. Why is it his favorite? Has he shared?
I think it's the story I put behind it, because I would tell a real deep story about each painting when I release it. I don't choose them haphazardly. They're important turning point moments in the film that the storyteller is telling, and that it's so important, it has to be captured. If it was a musical, it's so important, it has to have a song right there. Right? That's the only thing that can match the level of emotion. That's what I try to do with the art. I have to paint this moment. And to me, that's the whole movie. It's my favorite scene in the movie. It's the entire movie. When he goes to that arena the night before, and he sees Jurgens, and he says the poster's wrong, and blah, blah, blah. And Jurgen goes, really doesn't matter. Yeah. Right? In that, and you watch Sly's face change. It's so brilliant, his acting. In that moment, he realizes basically he's a joke. He knows it in that moment, that they don't take him seriously. They don't take him serious enough to even, they know he's not going to win. He's starting to think, do I even belong here? Yeah. Do I even belong in this moment? That's why he's small in the painting. I have him so small to show that he is in something so grand, so much bigger than himself. And
I remember watching that as a kid, feeling a little scared. It was dark and he was alone. And I felt how alone he was. Like me as a kid, I'd be scared in that big place in the dark all by myself. And even though I didn't understand that that's what he was trying to convey, that he was alone, and it was scary and it was difficult. I remember that scene very well, watching it the first time as a kid.
You felt it, what he was trying to convey. And it's in that moment where the character changes his goal. He moves away from his want to win the fight, because that's what he wants all along.
Right.
And he moves to his need to go the distance.
Yeah.
Prove to Jurgens and everybody else that he is not a bum and he has self-worth, and that it becomes his new objective when he goes home and lays in bed and tells Adrian, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So that moment, I mean, I get chills talking about it. Think about how powerful that the whole character changes his direction in that one moment.
And then let's talk about Adrian, because the one I want to talk about, and we only have a couple minutes left, is Yo Adrian. And I'll tell you, I have this little Rocky in your pocket thing that you can push buttons and it plays different things. And one of the things is the recording of him saying Yo Adrian. And there are some people who use that line and make fun. I never like that when they make fun of Sylvester Stallone's character Rocky saying Yo Adrian. Yeah. If you love the film, you get it. And it's the most beautiful thing he can say, right? And the painting, though, is, I mean, I love this woman. I think she's as much of a role model as Rocky was, in terms of, like, she was steadfast and strong and she loved him so big. Yeah. And tell us about this. We literally just have a minute, but I want to hear about it.
That's why she's in my other painting, Get Up, where he wins in Rocky 2. That's why I painted her there, because in Rocky 2, he's fighting for his family. He's fighting for Adrian and his family. Adrian's the one who gives him his directive, win, right? He's lost before that. She's the one who focuses him. So I had to capture that moment of when Yo Adrian, because that's the climax for him, that he did it for her, you know? And I just wanted to capture the energy, the technique I used that you can see, it's really strong. There's a lot of paint being pushed and thrown around. It's just an explosion of paint coming up to capture that same energy of him saying, Yo Adrian, I did it.
It's so beautiful. And my one of my favorites also, Love. I love that you wouldn't even have to have the words love there, but I love that they're there. So beautifully done. And just, I think, captures that, their expression, all of it. Who doesn't want that?
Exactly. That was just meant to capture what you just talked about a second ago, how they're really equals, you know, and that partnership is really, they can't be one without the other. They literally do fill gaps, right? They completed each other when they got together and met. And I just wanted to capture that in a more graphic way by using the Robert Indiana statue, which kind of says Billy, and plugging that in with Rocky and Adrian, but just to portray the love and the support that they have for each other.
Well, in the last 30 seconds or so, we have, how much do you love what you do?
I wouldn't even know what else I would do. It's like breathing to me. This is it. You know, I'm so lucky that I get to do it. You know, there's a lot of artists in the world, and I'm the one who got picked to do this. So, but I'm on a mission. You know,
the chosen one.
I'm my own little chosen one, because my mission is to really secure the legacy of Rocky and Sly. That's my goal here, is to do my part, like Mike is doing his part, to really nail down the legacy of that character that we all love so much.
Well, mission accomplished so far.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was wonderful.